And pretty much what we want to do now is try to make this an audience participation more like a black think tank. I always thought that was pretty cool, and I thought that we always needed to deal with it on that particular level as far as what little minds we have left. And when I say that minds we have left, we're not necessarily talking about standard education. You know what I'm saying? And also, too, we also know that we even have an aspect of the conscious community that goes to sleep. And the particular aspect is we dare not think outside of the box. At this particular time, we must push our minds to the limit. You know what I'm saying? It's no different than about a sort of jazz special here 2 years ago, Ken Burns Jazz, and they was talking to Duke Ellington. They was driving around Central Park, and the guy said, "You need classical training." He said, "I ain't got time to have no classical training." He said, "You know, I don't have time for no classical training and all this kind of thing here." And the guy turned to him and said, "I tell you what, think of everything that you know that makes common sense and throw it out the window and go from there." That's what you talk about, a quantum leap in the consciousness. And that's the problem why we are people that's basically always the people that never go outside of the parameters. We're always marginalized. You see, we're always at a deficit because the simple fact we dare not think outside of parameters. As a matter of fact, we probably made it somewhat of a joke when people do think out of the parameters. Like they say that 90% of black people don't get into sci-fi, science fiction. You know what I'm saying? And it's not necessarily saying that what's on the science fiction channel is reality a lot of times. What it means, we're talking about expansion of the mind. You see what I mean? Expansion of the mind. So what it is at this particular time, because people are asked the question, well, we've been into this consciousness for a while. We know that we came from Africa. We know that all education, we know that all technology, the rudiments of it were black. But people still want to know, well, what is the next step? The next step in the next battlefield for the millennium is your mind. You see what I'm saying? But it's not their mind in the applied sciences what is given to you to uphold this particular civilization. It is your mind to go beyond the boundaries of your own thought. So you must become disenfranchised with your own thought and don't accept that as the criteria. Don't be happy with the way you're thinking. You see what I'm saying? It leads to the ego process that might give you this self-grandizement and give yourself a trophy. There's always got to be that break. It's always got to be that leap beyond into that particular, you know, that void of the weird, as most people would say. But then again, most innovators and revolutionaries and visionaries were seen as real and seen as weird. And what I'm saying by that is this. In entertainment and in music, if you notice now, especially in the entertainment and music aspect, there's no creativity in it no more. That's gone. You got a whole generation where they accept the norms and everybody tries to confine themselves into what is already set for them, but there's no real creativity. Have you heard anything that's genius in a while? You see what I'm saying? Not even in our comedy. I listen to Comic View and I'm like, okay, that's a little funny, but it's still playing in the parameters of what I already know. You see what I'm saying? It's like their comedy has gotten to the point that it is at the particular aspect of, it doesn't bridge the gap and go beyond that. You see what I'm saying? And that's why black people didn't get Seinfeld until the damn shit was in reruns. You know what I'm saying? Black people could not understand Seinfeld, #1 show in damn one of the history of TV, and black people couldn't get it till they got in reruns, and they could see enough shows and say, hey, wait a minute, there's some genius stuff that's going on here. You see what I'm saying? People are like, I don't get white comedy. No, you're not getting white comedy because you've been reduced down to a point where as it's the simple stuff that you accept. So they produce these simple movies over and over again. There's been a movie, the last 10 movies you got, it's been the same shit that you learned with Sanford and Son. They just recast it. It's good times all over again. You see what I'm saying? So we're saying, well, what is he talking about that? What are we trying to tell you is there's a creativity, there's a creative creative spark that's not there anymore. You see what I'm saying? You see it in the entertainment. You see it in the music. You see what I'm saying? And even down to the education. People are only fitting in the parameters of what the European paradigm has set for them. And no one goes out there, goes beyond that. You see, what is the creativity in a Colin Powell? What? A yes man? What is the creativity in a Congolese Rice? You know what I'm saying? And these people are great. Congolese Rice is a Russian scholar. You see what I'm saying? Got a damn ship named after her because she was in all business. You see what I'm saying? But she's reduced down to a yes woman. And who she's following? A complete idiot. You understand what I'm saying? So you got the so-called top echelon of our people, and who's leading them? A complete idiot that is going from his orders from wherever his boss man is. But the concept here is, like I said, they did a whole conference in 1998, 1988 on creative physics. That's a new name that they named for melanin. Creative physics. You see, the book called Mark Balfour's book, Sign and the Serpent. Whole conference they did on creative physics. You know what I'm saying? And it's a new name they named for melanin. They was talking about the creativity. Now, I started dealing with I did a whole year dedicated to a science and an art that's old as mankind itself. Sex tantra. Black people like to lost their mind. This nigga gone fool. I mean, I did the campaign all of 2000 and 2001, and black people lost their mind. Oh yeah, we was Afrocentric and conscious, but there was that still doggone fundamentalistic Christian holiness, Bluefoot Baptist up under there. So what we did is we just changed the names, but we kept the same model. So black people like to lost their minds. And right after 9/11 in Australia, they had a same sex tantric conference in Australia, and white people from all over the globe flew in to go see that. You see what I'm saying? Your boss man. You see, flew in to go understand these views on this whole sex tantric, which is a gateway to a whole other dimension. And they flew all over the world to do that. And I do 2 years, and people lose their mind. I had a conference in Atlanta, the Hemmitt Summit, and basically it was a tantric conference and turned into a gender conference. But the key here is it was cutting edge stuff. You see, but then again, that's how it is even with our black consciousness. That's because most of the black conscious people are stuck because they got some mold that they're dealing with that was put down in the 1960s, and they don't go beyond those particular barriers. You see. They don't go beyond those particular barriers and stuff. So that's why the stuff becomes ice cold. The key here is to never stop researching. You see, so I don't feel comfortable with the information that I give beyond receiving the information and reporting what I find. That means I have to keep going on. That means if you get up every day and you still here catching hell, you got to keep on going. You see what I'm saying? So some people say, well, man, I wanted to hear what you said 2 years ago. I'm like, I said that 2 years ago, goddammit. You see what I'm saying? We got to keep on. So you see what I'm saying? But that's called entertainment. We love entertainment. We love to be entertained. You see what I'm saying? So the other point, like I'm saying again, is we do not reach beyond our mindset. We don't stretch that limit. And that's basically black life in the 20th century. From we know from 1865 on up, because we can say it started in slavery. Hell, half the inventions. You see what I'm saying? I'm looking at this thing here, and I know damn well they had a whole special on A&E on Colonel Sanders. Now I'm looking at him, and this man all of a sudden just mysteriously come up with damn 11 herbs and spices. And this cracker done been in 10 businesses before he get 65. His Kentucky Fried Chicken starts at 65. He's been in 10 businesses before he gets 65. Mediocre shit, gas stations, and you know what I'm saying? Then all of a sudden now he just gonna come up with some damn 11 herbs and spices. You see what I'm saying? You know, and before they added all that damn MSG in it, shit, but nothing can beat no fucking kernels. But the key, what I'm trying to say here is, where I'm getting at is, we know doggone well that was some black family in Kentucky that used to be slaves of his family that was handed down, this slave recipe that he got his hands on coming from his family, and he ends up, you see what I'm saying, launching that, and now there's millions, and billionaires become, you know, like I say, most people became rich except the colonel. But the point I'm trying to make here is, we know that the creative spark all came from America. They said without black people in America, the United States would have been a sad copy of a second-rate Europe. It would have been a second-rate Europe and a sad copy of Europe. So they mean that, well, what was the spark that made it different? You see what I'm saying? The spark that made it different, you killed off the Native Americans. The spark that made it different was the black man and black woman. The creative physics on the planet. You see what I'm saying? This is what we're talking about here. But now all of a sudden, we don't create nothing. There is no creativity in nothing we do. Even in the so-called intellectuals, the only thing they're doing is they become a cliche motif, a cliche mind, you know, the same stuff. And not only that, sometimes their thoughts come in their mouth, but they don't dare say anything outside of the box and original around white folks. Because we have used them as the criteria of what we're going to even set as the standard of thought. So now, you know, thought on the planet now is European. You see what I'm saying? Thought is European. You know, we fought against it and all, but I'm trying to say, in record rows, the Africans are now European. The Asians are now European. And every other body cut loose from some jungle is now European. You see what I'm saying? You see, so we don't push the boundaries. And so when you push the boundaries where you say, look, I'm going to override everything that's reality, then when the bullshit comes down, you can even see when someone has a conspiracy. Give you an example. And we know we got Black History Month, which in February, the 28 days, but then again, we got to understand, we've been complaining about that, but we need to do the history. Number one, Carter G. Wilson is the one who, when did Carter G. Wilson? Is the one who established that. So number one, that makes it spiritual. Number two, the 28 days is more sacred than doggone 30 days. Why? Because 28 days is based on the woman's cycle. You see what I'm saying? So in actuality, they said we got the shortest day of the month. No, we got the one that's the 28 days is based on the woman's cycle, which the calendar, you see what I'm saying, that the planet is on now is modified down, but it's all that is coming from the original calendars. It's come set by the woman's cycle. You see what I'm saying? So now, to give you to understand warfare. Now I'm sitting here, and I have been opponents of Michael Jackson's craziness for years myself. But I'm looking at this thing and I'm going, wait a minute, hold on. Now this is like you analyze something. I said, well, wait a minute, hold on. Well, let's see what's behind this, because everything that he is now, he was 10 years ago. He was white 10 years ago. His nose was fucked up 10 years ago. You see what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? He was fucking with Webster and all them other little boys 10 years ago. Macaulay Culkin and all that. And white people loved him. So it ain't like they just all of a sudden, 10 years later, what have you done with yourself, Michael Jackson? No, Michael Jackson was that way in 1987, 1986, 1988, 1990. You understand what I'm saying? Up until 93 when this pedophile thing came down. So my point here is that they can't be putting the focus on Michael Jackson now, and the stuff that they're talking about is old news. So that means that we're talking about some form of warfare based on image. And it's not Michael Jackson's image that it's based on. Michael Jackson is just the extreme model in which they can carry out the warfare on. They got to get a freak to do it. You see what I'm saying? So the whole concept of the Michael Jackson thing, and Mark Povich said it. He said it's the Michael Jackson wars. But then again, on the other hand, we don't understand cold warfare. Cold warfare, a lot of cold warfare is based on propaganda and image. The image is key. You see? So we're talking about cold warfare. Now, it doesn't have anything to do, because Michael Jackson does look strange. And yes, he is a candidate and a poster child to launch a hell of a campaign of propaganda against. But this ain't propaganda, I'm just saying. They just point the finger. But the point I'm trying to make here is, they're not doing that because of Michael Jackson. They're doing that because we still have an elite group of people that must put someone under a system. This was about Black History Month and you. Now, the first thing they want to do is, when this was supposed to have been a time set aside to commemorate your achievements, it got lost in the shuffle because the biggest thing on TV was the Michael Jackson. You see how it goes? That's warfare.
Right.
Now, not only that, they decided all of a sudden out of the blue sky to just run something on Diana Ross.
Right.
Shit. Diana Ross ain't had a hit album since doggone I'm Coming Out. 1980. You know what I'm saying? You know? But all of a sudden now, they go and they give you this thing on Diana Ross. During the same time of the Michael Jackson wars. And it wasn't just the print media, it wasn't just the media, mass media, it was print media. All you got to do, did you go in the supermarket and see how many times you can see Michael Jackson's face on these books? On these magazines? So they got Diana Ross coming on at this particular time. You see? No, so you don't do a special on her until there's some nasty stuff going down. Like I said, now Woody Allen, big freak. Big freak. Done married his stepdaughter. You know, big time freak. You know? But nobody said nothing about Woody Allen. No, he's a genius. So see the science? Okay. Same time they got that going on, they re-aired a Bobby Brown and Whitney Houston thing. You see? And I think it was a couple of, what else? Who else they did?
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson. Then they did another OJ documentary. You see, this whole time you got the Black History Month, which they give you very little to start with. You got a counter thing going on at the same time. Now, this was a ritual. They could have aired it in January. They could have aired it in March. You understand what I'm saying? Now, he had his rebuttal, and he kicked ass on his rebuttal a little bit, you know, and showed that the guy was sent there to do that as far as the reporter of Michael Jackson. But then again, on the other hand, you got to understand two things with the Jews. Don't forgive you. Michael Jackson, this is one thing that happened in 1992 or 91. Michael Jackson had a lot of Jewish people working for him. And I don't know what had happened. He had found out some information on the Jews, so he went in his office and fired all of them and replaced them with black people. That's the first thing. Now, this summer, he went up to Harlem talking shit about white folks. You see what I'm saying? So he knew they was going to have they were going to lash him, you know, they were going to come back on him. But you know what I'm saying? But the point here is, why Black History Month? Because people be ready for the Michael Jackson stuff anytime. You see, but that's a form of, there's still a battle in the millennium, you see, to come back and fight you based on a mindset. Let me give you some other science that's going on that they're showing you policy. They have, somebody give me a towel or some paper napkins or something. You know, yeah. I think somebody's going to get something. Let me give you another example. They have the movie, they have this show that comes on, American Experience, comes on PBS. Now, since 2001, the millennium, they started, they had one on Marcus Garvey, they had one on Emmett Till, they had one on last week of the brother that did the first open heart surgery. They had the Scottsboro Boys. They had one about a Mississippi flood where they took all the black people and literally put them in slavery in the 1920s. So the American Experience is coming out with stuff. They just did one on, Showtime did a one on Adam Clayton Powell. You see that? They did one on Adam Clayton Powell. Bill Bojangles. Showtime also did one on Atlanta child murders. Now, they're coming out with all of this stuff. Why are they coming out with it now? Because you got to understand the psychological ramification of what you do when you rule a people. when you rule a people, you never let those people undertake the crimes and face the crimes or unmask the crimes that is going against them or actually put on them in the century that those crimes are committed. That's a science. Right now, the last century, when we talked about slavery, most black people said, hell, that happened a century ago. You hear this today, that happened a century ago. And we don't understand that science to that. You see? So, it is policy that they can bring out all of this type of stuff that we wouldn't dare heard nothing on Marcus Garvey. You see what I'm saying? In the 20th century. You know? So it's policy that they bring, and it's policy that they bring out these things now, but it is the next century. This is a form of warfare. So I guess shit just go down now. We won't get to see it until 100 years from now. But that's the science. The major stuff we want, especially when it comes to conspiratorial stuff. And this is how you rule the people. You see, now they did a whole, like I said, they did a whole special on Napoleon back here in 2000. Excellent special. They even talked about the buttons on his jacket and omitted the entire Haitian campaign with Toussaint Louverture and Dessalines. Why? Because they can't tell people that black people fought, you see what I'm saying, for their independence in the Western Hemisphere. So they will never tell people that. You see, the other one was John Brown. They did a whole special on John Brown. You see what I'm saying? So my point here is, it's still a form of warfare. So the simple fact is, if you are a subject, and just basically, we can even deal with history. And for the mere fact that, see, if we just look at this based on superiority and inferiority, and these fools say we're going to invite things to the table so we can sit down and dialogue. If they omit history from that, you understand what I'm saying? You still at a deficit and you're still a savage because you're non-historical. You see, now it's not necessarily saying we know that it was up to us to deal with our own history, but we're still talking about policy when it comes to the masses. And the masses are still going to the table as some new entity. Some person that is living without an owner's manual. Because somebody give me some cups of water. You can just pour some of this into what you call it there. Without an owner's manual. That's like a person, that's like you buying a car without an owner's manual, if you don't have the history of it. So when you're invited to the table, so when you see a person like a Colin Powell or Congolese Rice, for the mere fact that their history is not included to go along with them, they're savages. And they're going to always be the subordinates. You see what I'm saying? And subjects. You see, because they are non-historical people. So even the concept of that, you see, we're at a deficit and marginalized for the simple fact that that has not been brought out on that particular level. You see what I'm saying? So they know the science of ruling a people, and all. Now, which leads now to the conscious and the Afrocentric thing that's going down, whereas we took a certain level of it and decided that that was enough. You see what I'm saying? We have to keep going on. You have to keep pushing on with it. You see what I'm saying? You can't just stop at you. I mean, even in the metaphysical thing, there's several levels of it, but you can't just stop at what you know. There's always have to be an ongoing task. Let me give you an example here. Here's one. Now, this is coming from some white people. Because the sister emailed it to another sister. What I will do is we'll get this Xeroxed, and tomorrow we will have some of these available. But this is some white people writing on the internet on black people, and on black people. And it says, and this is what it says, okay, Ronald Lewis Blackman, and those of you who have heard it, this is an article of D. Lee, whoever that is, was reading something on a morning radio station in New York City. For those of you don't know, and those of you who didn't hear, it is a very deep but true, heavy piece, and a Caucasian wrote it. So this is some stuff that happened in this, they're reading this stuff about what some white person wrote. And when I read it and stuff, I said, oh yeah, well, you know, we know how to think about us, but this stuff, when he was reading, I was in damn agreement. I'm like, this motherfucker here is tight. It says, blacks don't read. They are still our slaves. We can continue to reap and profit from blacks without the effect of physical slavery. Look at the current methods of containment that they use for themselves. Ignorance, greed, and selfishness. Their ignorance is the primary weapon of containment. A great man once said, if you want to keep anything from black people, put it in a book. So that's one of our quotes. But then again, we don't know where we got it from, but you know. He said, we now live in the information age. We have gained the opportunity to read any book on any subjects through the effects of their fight. They have gained the opportunity to read any book on any subjects through the effects of their fight for freedom. Yet they refuse to read. That's what the Bible tells you. Blessed are those who read. It didn't say read the Bible. It says blessed are those who read. You see what I'm saying? But here too, because someone has told you that you shouldn't look beyond a book that is given to you, and you didn't make that choice. You don't do it, and you make an argument about it. That's savage. To have a people that say, I'm giving a book, and I don't want to look beyond a book because someone tells me not to look beyond a book. And then you make an argument about it. I'm talking about the Bible. Now I'm talking about the Quran because we've been, 60 years into that. You see what I'm saying? But at least 30 and 20 or either 10. My point here is, he who knows one book knows none. You see. Now, so, it says, this is the information age. Okay. Numerous books readily available at Borders, Barnes & Nobles, Amazon.com, not to mention their own black bookstores, provide a solid blueprint to reach economic equality, which should have been their fight all along, but few read constantly, if at all. You see what I'm saying? So this alone is telling you that this is one of the major problems. How the hell are you going to know how to function, period, if you don't know no fucking information? You see what I'm saying? And my point here is, we cannot just go by the parameters for those who read to just feel comfortable with what someone has set for us. So the educated people, when they go up in the so-called Barnes and Nobles, they got a certain thing that they're going to be reading. If they continue to read, most of it's going to be for entertainment purposes. And for the educated person that says, well, you know, that they don't read for entertainment person, they're only going to read based on the criteria, the parameters that is set within the boundaries of their career. You understand what I'm saying? That's not good. You already living your career. Motherfucker already giving you a check. So why read more books on your career? You see what I'm saying? So we got a problem with the so-called educated because they're only going to read. No, they ain't going to read on their damn career. They're going to only read on their career when that cracker says you need to be certified. You know how that shit is. Then you burn the midnight oil. So we don't need to hear this thing about, you know, black people. Because I used to say that in my consciousness. Oh, you know, black people, we psychologically ruined. We don't do this and we don't do that. And then I've seen the white man go, I need you to do this to be certified. And it could be something like fixing a damn satellite. And you know what? Them niggas meet the obligations and the requirements beyond the call of duty. We don't have no problem. Now, you know that cracker come up and say, yo, certification. You've been here and shit. Now we want you to come here and program fish computers. Well, the fish computers haven't been invented yet. Well, no, we want you to do it anyway. The motherfuckers come up with the invention. We see this all the time, so we know we're capable of doing what the fuck we want to do. You see what I'm saying? That's the problem. It's amazing. You know, when that white man say do it, we do it. That's like the CP time. Right. You know what I'm saying? Then you be cussing, God damn it, I'm late. You know, so the concept here is, again, we have to push the parameters. And we cannot say now that things are crazy. Because now, the things that you're saying is crazy, like the black people is going, oh man, they just really let me have it. You know what I'm saying? I just was amazed at how Christian we were, and puritanical, Mennonites, you know, just basically worse than 20th century Christianity. Somehow we regressed back into some pilgrim stage that we wasn't a part of. We the Amish, Calvinists. You see what I'm saying? Someone has switched the screws and have put us in a form of psychological slavery so you can't create. The blueprints are shut down because you're too fucking righteous. The goddamn piety is what's fucking you up. You see? Now, I'm not talking about us in here. But what I'm trying to say here is, beyond 12 years old, why do you even have to focus on what's right or wrong? And even if you did wrong, hey, it's nature to do wrong. Look at the doggone animal kingdom. Look at nature itself. Oh, that's nature. Nature's divine, except when it tear down your motherfucking house. The flood come and tear down your house. But can you lock that up? Can you ask God to explain? I think that's supposed to be evil. In my house, my TV is somewhere down the street. Oh, but that's nature. You see what I'm saying? The whole concept here is the piety that we have gone into, which is behavioral modification based on a European sense of religion, which is not spirituality. That's not spirituality. That's behavioral. That is a form of behavioral, ceremonial, and behavioral modification to a people who were a immigrant human. Now, the whole religious world, all the preachers, the entire concept of Western religion that they are preaching is based on your behavior. And how can you get rewarded based on your behavior? And yet they have missed the whole blueprint of what spirituality is. It has nothing to do with behavior whatsoever. Give me some questions if anybody's unclear about this. The concept. We're not here to tease or torment. We're trying to get through some things here. If you're not understanding what I'm saying. What I'm trying to tell you is what you have been taught with religion, even on the most loftiest heights of your ministers, is catechism. It's no more than an advanced form of Sunday school. So the whole spiritual apparatus doesn't even get to even come into Western religion. And when the spiritual apparatus comes into Western religion, then that becomes evil or the devil. You see what I'm saying? So we got loads of you can take that cable button, because with all the more channels you get, there's one thing you're going to find out. You get 200 channels, but you're going to have at least 50 fucking religious shows, all speaking on the same damn thing. You see? Now, you can tell you this is a form of mind control, because if this was a free country, and the country said we must do something to make sure that the minds of a people who are a multicultural people, to bridge the gap for all of the shows that come out in Christianity, we must give the people the alternatives, you see what I'm saying, of other types of religion. Buddhism, advanced Judaism, African spirituality, African traditional religions, Zen philosophy, Hinduism. And I'm talking the modification. We ain't talking about the advanced metaphysical stuff. But through all of those and stuff, you will get a consortium to try to understand that it's not just mono, deaf, brain-dead tunnel that you think is around you. The only thing you think of is some male god. You see, and sitting over you, waiting for you to not appease him so he can get jealous of you and kick you in the ass and send you to hell. Now, I asked this question last night to get to this because I want to say, because we need, you know, I'm quite sure that I'm preaching to the converted, so I don't see nobody raising their hand, but I want to put this out here about this concept. Anybody in here religious? You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know. Even some of you black conscious people, you know, you got Rastafarians, they still believe in the same thing. You know what I'm saying? You got the Islamic people, that is nothing but an extension of the Old Testament. You know what I'm saying? An extension of the Old Testament and stuff like that. You know, that's all that is. You know what I'm saying? The point I'm trying to make here is we're still talking about the Judeo-Christian paradigm. Let's just look at this concept here about the hell concept. Now, in physics, fire burns. But what fire has to burn has to be some type of physical element. Right? Is that fair to say? Exactly. Now, it could be fire by itself and don't have to be burning nothing. But in order for fire to burn, it has to be a physical element, right? It has to burn something physical. Even when it comes to some gases, it's got to be something physical. Right? Is that fair to say? So if you die and lose your physical body, how the fuck you gonna burn in hell? You ever thought about that? How you gonna burn in hell when you lose your physical body? Is it fair to say? Huh? Now, you say that your soul gonna burn. No, your soul, if you have studied, the soul is a particle of light. And light and fire is one and the same. I don't care how light is produced, it's still the same origin. A soul is a particle of light. The word soul, you get the word solar system. It's a sun. The sons of God, S-U-N of God, S-O-N of God, it's the same thing. Depends on what, you know, whether you in Hemmitt and you call it the son of God, or whether you later on want to call it S-O-N of God, it's the same thing. So a sun is fire. Our God is an all-consuming fire. You see what I'm saying? It's not written in the law that ye are God, John chapter 10, verse 34, 36. So the point I'm trying to make here is your soul can't burn up in hell because your soul is fire. It's a sun. So what can burn up in hell? It's just real, you know, it's just, but my point here is, again, the parameters. Now, I do this because I know I'm preaching to the converted, but then again, on the other hand, we're trying to find out where the government has got us locked into at this particular time, because the parameters are still all around us. Right. And we dare not to think outside, you see what I'm saying, of the norm, of the conventional. You see what I'm saying? Like Grace Jones said, fuck it, I'm superficial. I detest the official. I hate everything official. That's a great motto. I am superficial. I hate everything official. You see what I'm saying? You know, so we are all trying to have a good life to repeat the same thing that millions of people are trying to repeat. How about not trying to be like other people? How about not trying to repeat what millions of people try to repeat? You know what I'm saying? Some women know in their mind they never should have had children, but they did it because everybody else did the shit. That's called socialization. You're socialized. I talked about this in the lectures before. What they call that thing? Social programming. Where you go to Houston and you go to Atlanta, you got a Wendy's, you got a McDonald's. You see what I'm saying? You got a McDonald's, you got a Walmart, you got a Kmart. Same thing, wherever you go in this particular country. That means if your mind is fucked up and you want to leave to clear your mind, when you go to Indiana, it's going to be the same images there. It's going to keep your mind fucked up. That's what that is. That's social behavior, or social, there's another word, social engineering. Social engineering. Don't you understand that the big Kmart, the Walmart, those are symbols. And symbols produce archetypes, and when you keep the same symbols, you keep the same mindset based on where your mind was the last time you saw the symbol. So if you see the big arches in South Dakota, and you see the damn same big McDonald arches in South Carolina, you still the same motherfucking fool. You understand? We got to break the parameters. You see what I'm saying? So let's not try to be like most humans. Because humanity is not the key. Humanity is the past. Humanity was the condition. But it is not the end all and be all. That's social engineering. And so what has happened with us as so-called people that is so-called learned of us. When I say the learned of us, I'm not talking about formal education. I'm talking about someone that can think just a little bit. You see what I'm saying? That's a little, that's, you wake. You might be in a daze, but you still wake. Compared to the ones that's completely asleep. You see what I'm saying? So we got to go beyond that at this particular time because we have to start thinking like that outside of the quote-unquote matrix. You see? So we got to think like the monster. You see what I'm saying? We got to think like the monster. We have to think, you know, if something is grotesque, if you stay around it long enough, it doesn't become grotesque. You see what I'm saying? Well, I want to look at something grotesque. Well, to most black people, reading is goddamn grotesque. Now, how can reading be grotesque? Because we're talking about pathological grown-up children at large. A child, you have to force them to read and force them to study. So because we are permanent children, they have to force us to study. Even the so-called educated and stuff, they went to get certified. You understand what I'm saying? To get a certain job, trained, but they have to go beyond that, but they've never gone beyond that particular part. So we even know that there's going to be, they even did studies on the so-called black educated aspect of that. And even not only that, they also make sure that the people, that the quote-unquote educated people that they always put on TV, they always make sure that they are the same blueprint of people. They never show you somebody that's different. You see what I'm saying? That's different. You see, they never show you somebody that's different. That's the key. Now, the grassroots that we used to say, I'm going to be honest with you. They've done a study. The reason why Emmitt, there's two reasons why Eminem is #1 white rapper in the world. One thing why Eminem is one of the #1 white rappers in the world, because guess what? He's created a rap form that sounds different than about 500 cookie cutter rap niggas with the same bullshit that hadn't had progress in the last 6-7 years. Now it might be but they understand it might be different, and yes, that is a form of it's a ritual. They wanted to see could they take a white boy and put him at the top, and basically they did that. You see what I'm saying? And they got the numbers of white people to buy the music to make sure he's at the top. Doesn't necessarily make him the top, but hell, they still calling Elvis the damn king, and Michael Jackson unseated his ass in 1979 with Off the Wall album. But he's still the king. You see what I'm saying? But and how is he the king over Michael Jackson? Michael Jackson is unseated him on every level there was, even in popularity. You know what I'm saying? But he's still the king. So on one aspect, but my point here is, the problem here is, think about it, look about it, because nobody wants to be outside of the box. So the black rappers, they all want to sound like the other rapper, because nobody wants to do nothing that is innovative now, because they feel they're going to be looked down on because they ain't cool like the other motherfucking rappers. So as a result, you'll have 4 good ones that have some unique stuff to them, and then you'll have 900 of the same cookie cutter machine. Then the white boy come up with something different and stuff like that, and black people buy it because your mind longs for something different. You see what I'm saying? Because nobody said, you said the fuck you like. Eminem was good. Am I bullshitting? Now you might say in your mind that he's not. You understand what I'm saying? But the shit that Eminem was doing, I ain't talking about what he was talking. I'm talking about his style was different. That's all I'm saying. He was trained by a black man. You understand what I'm saying? He was trained by a black man. This is in retrospect now because everybody accepted him 2 years ago. Black people was in on Eminem. You understand what I'm saying? The point I'm trying to make here is, and it's not just him, it ain't like he got that much talent. It's just that the music company said, we know how to doggone do some things. We want you to go into an area, and they took your boy, it was produced in Dre, and they said, we want you to do something new and innovative. They could have done that with any black person. And they put it on him, and then they said, we got the means to make him, his stuff, outsell people for the simple fact we're going to promote him more. But the point about it here is the creativity level, and not just in the rap, because if there's anything that's creative, some of the rappers are still doing it, but the soul music is ridiculous. And you ever listen to, what they call it, smooth jazz? Isn't that the same song over and over again? Some motherfucker blowing a saxophone off of some music that was created with somebody singing 10 years ago. Nas G, Kenny G, Gerald Albright. Is this all the same cookie cutter stuff? Dave Cars. You see? That's no creativity. So the jazz and the R&B is worse than the rap. Because it's been around long, it should mean it's supposed to be elevated to another level now. You see what I'm saying? So the point I'm trying to make here is going back to creative physics is shut down in black people. It's all good because it's over, but the point here is we still, even in the conscious community, are feeling comfortable with what we already know. And we're not pushing the envelope. And that's one reason why I can continue to work, because the simple fact I'm still dealing with concepts. Well, it was so, my shit was so way out in the first place until, you know, I can stall a minute and you play catch up and stuff like that, because I mean, you know, if you're on the moon, shit, with age, you know. But the point here is, you know, those particular concepts here is we are at a standstill. We are at a standstill even in our mind based on social engineering. You see what I'm saying? You must die. When they say die, you must give it all up on that particular concept. Let me get into some stuff right. Let me pour some libations and get some energy going, and then we're going to get into some science and start the lecture. Yeah. What I am dealing with now is the Doors of Cuba has been coming down the last year. Since the millennium, they have been coming in, they've been opening up Cuba. So there's a lot of things that's coming from Cuba. A lot of things that were hidden, it was hidden in Cuba, which make me to believe why they had to lock down Cuba in the first place. And I'll give you my scenario on this in a minute, on what actually happened. But there's a lot of things coming out. So they've opened the borders of Cuba, and automatically through Miami, there's all types of African traditional science that's coming up through Cuba. You see what I'm saying? Take for instance, your Palo Manombe, which is probably the most powerful system left on the planet. It's Palo Manombe, Palo Monte, but the Palo, it's called Palo. Only one book produced in the whole United States off of a Congo, coming from the Congo, Africa, a Congo African practice in the whole United States. And a year ago, you couldn't find nothing on the internet or any type thing because they had to put it on lockdown. Because it's the most powerful, and I'll explain why it's the most powerful. All of a sudden, in Cuba, because they opened up the floodgates of Cuba recently, now the Poleros, the people who practice Palo, are able to, were asked to put together books and manuals on the lost art of the lost African Congo science of Palo Monte, Palo Manombe, and what they call, there's Brazilian Palo, and all this Palo stuff that started coming up since August. So we're talking about something that's thousands of years old. It's been held at bay in the continental United States and in the Western world, and we're only getting some of this stuff since August. I'm fortunate because they put it on lockdown. The most powerful stuff did come across the borders in 1994. But as a result, the main gamut of Apollo has come to the United States. We're going to get into some of that particular. This is a book called The Book on Apollo by Baba Raoul Canzares. 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 Baba, B-A-B-A, Raoul, R-A-U-L, Baba Raoul Canzares. And this book is called The Book on Apollo. This is some stuff that has not been in the continental United States, and this is just hitting the North America in January, or late December. It's only been edited since August. You see what I'm saying? Coming from Cuba. Coming from Cuba. Very key. This is put out by a group called Original Publications. They're the people that's down in Florida. They give you your Santeria books, your books on Yoruba, and they give you all of this stuff coming out of Miami. So you don't see a lot of this in the metaphysical bookstores because it's coming out of Miami, Florida, by way of Cuba and by way of the Caribbean. The place is called Original Publications. The number is 188-OCCULT/1. 188-OCCULT, OCCULT-1. And that's, you can call the Original Publications and order this particular book on the Apollo. We're going to get into some of this, but this is the cutting edge of stuff that's coming now that Cuba is opening up. But it also has a lot to do why Cuba was closed down. I'll get into it in a few minutes. I have been dealing, fortunately, with the Palo-Manombe, which is the most powerful system since 2000. And as a result, I was able to open up some other gateways, and that's also what we want to talk about today, the new cutting edge of what's going on in the spirit world. Now listen, the first 8 years of my career was based on rehashing fragments from around the known world in our esoteric sciences and dealing with the existing entities that we had on left over from all the systems on the planet, including Christianity. You see what I'm saying? But all the systems on the planet, from Hindu to Buddhism to the ancient Kamite to even ancient Greece, which was all black. That's your Etruscans. So it had to, but until that time, your Voodoo, your Yoruba, your Dogon, your Santeria, I had to take all of these particular pieces to deal with the teachings of what existed on the planet. The Apollo was one of the later ones to come since 2000, but the concept here is to make a spiritual breakthrough, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to pour libation and try to give you a backdrop on where I am at this particular time, because it's more than just giving lectures and giving certain information. If we're dealing with a scientific process, you got to produce results sooner or later. That's even in any university. If it's a legitimate university, sooner or later, you got to produce results. Especially if you're in the scientific field. There need to be some breakthroughs. Somebody need to be getting the hell on out of here. You see what I'm saying? So it's the same thing right here and all, you see, to produce results. So as a result, I'm giving you the proceedings of what came out of the last 10 years, and basically we've been very successful to hit gold. Especially within the last year, since from 91 on up, till there's been an entire redoing or undoing of the previous systems, whereas we're dealing with stuff that is right and exact because it's not rooted in the sectarianism of the different systems we all fight over. Whether we Yoruba, whether we Rastafarian, whether we this, because we got a war going on in the conscious community based on whether it's going to be all Egyptian. You see what I'm saying? We must go on, and as a result, there's been some things that was produced out of this research. So I want to go into some of that type of stuff. So I'm going to pour to the Apollo, since this is some of the stuff that's coming from Puerto Rico, Brazil, Cuba, and all of this is coming from the Congo, Africa, which is Central Africa. Congo, Africa. And all. So I'm going to deal with some of those, and then we'll go into, I start off with some of those, and then we go into other ones. You know, Zarabanda, Ashe, which means power. Okay. El Cristo Negro, Ashe. Los Spiritus Tranquilos, Ashe. La Santísima Muerte, Ashe. San Simón, Ashe. El Cristo Rey, Ashe. Madre de la Luna, Ashe. Madre de Agua, Ashe. La Santísima Petra Iman, Ashe. Francisco de Chichereos, Ashe. Mama Shola, Ashe. Okay, I don't want to drown the plan out, but we got that. We got the water for him right here. Kakumbo, Ashe. Lokeo, Ashe. Oticha, Ashe. Sheola, Ashe. Tiaosha, Ashe. Omagumu, Ashe. Alcala, Ashe. Labido, Ashe. If you notice, I've called, that's 9 entities. That's we'll get into the. We have scholarship on this thing where they talk about. They call it the outer realm, or they call it the night side, or they call it the other side of the tree of life. I'll go into all this if you're not understanding. These are new entities that has only appeared at the beginning of the millennium, March 2001. And from March 2001 till May 2002, there's 9 new entities that came. And thank God they didn't come to me. I thank God they didn't come to me, because I didn't want nobody to say Bobby created some new damn gods for itself to put on us. I thank God that they came from 4 corners of the United States. Bam! But they all coincide. And that's very key on how they came about. I'm glad that this shit didn't come from me on that particular thing. Although I was a part of receiving the oracle. I was the one that was the recorder to receive this particular information, but it came from, and thank God it came from not one brother, it came from 2 to 3 sisters. You see what I'm saying? You can put your trust in that shit, because it came from the sisters. You see what I'm saying? Which is excellent on how that whole thing goes down. But let's go on. Oshun, Yinanya, Oya, Olakun, Oshose, Orisha Oku, Segment, Sashet, Mayat, Met, Metatron, Metronet, Osa, Aset, Heru, Heru Kahudi, Heru Bahutit, Heru Rahar Hewitt, Newt, Hattie, Abdic, Captain, Rarit, Lilith, Layla, Lilitu, Sanesi, Sanubit, Kali, Shiva, Virtra, Vishnu. I'll give you some loud ashes and stuff to get the energy going and all. Remember now, what we're actually doing, these are gatherings. You ever heard of the gathering of the masters? Well, we're not. So it's a coming together of advanced. Sadi, Lakshmi, Sri Lakshmi, Tim, Hemmitt, Hemu, Amit, Kinmu, Salis, Upwaret, Segment, Sashet, Selket, Nelhurt, Mithra, Abraxas, Abra, Elohim, Surahs, Letters, Nephilim, Titans, Leviathan, Leviathan, Tiamat, Shutan, Kim Heru, Pan Heru, Baphomet. Let's see. Let's see. Let me get some more. Oh, that'll do for right now. That'll do for right now. 1, 2, 3. Stop calling out your ancestors. 1, 2, 3. Ashe. 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 Call out your ancestors passed on. Ashe. 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 And last but not least, we need to spit the elixir. We need to spit the elixir 4 ways, you know, you never do a ceremony where you don't spit the elixir. Usually rum or gin is good and all, but this is some stuff that was given by the entities that came through. And we'll deal with that. Now this is also good for you if you're driving without insurance in your car. This is excellent. It's also good, excellent. If you're driving without insurance with your car. Also, one of the good ones, part of it is done in Mary Hope's book. It's out of print book on Egyptian magic. She alludes to it, but you can take the god, they always give you these elaborate rituals to do, but you can take the god Anubis. Anybody seen the dog Anubis before? Anpu? You take the god Anubis, and if you take Anubis when you're driving down the street, and you put Anpu or Anubis on your automobile, you don't have to worry about the cops stopping you. You see what I'm saying? You don't have to worry about that. Remember, creative visualization is everything. So what you do is you imagine the dog Anubis sitting on the automobile. Some people, let's see. I got a picture of Anubis for the ones to give you some visual aspect of what I want